right, happy Friday, everybody. You have made it to the end of the week. Congratulations, because every time you make it to Friday, it is a win, and it's going to be a win this weekend because, my goodness, Jonathan Williams, it's the best NFL weekend of the entire year. Divisional Saturday and Sunday are upon us, and we got a local team in it. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, the slate this weekend is one of the best we've seen in one weekend in recent memory. A lot of good games, a lot of games that are kind of toss-ups and could go either way. So us making our picks on this one, I have a feeling it's going to be really, really fun.
Hey, I'll tell you what, we can't wait. It's going to be an exciting weekend of football. The great thing about it is we get to talk about it on this Friday. Thanks so much for being with us, everybody, on the Gem City Sports Podcast, brought to you, as always, by Rebridge Investments. They keep financial guidance simple. If you want more info, head to their website, www.rebridgeinvestments.com, or simply call their phone number during normal business hours, not Saturday or Sunday, but Monday morning will do just fine, 814-734-3433. Pick up that phone, dial that number if you want financial guidance and financial success. Rebridge Investments, keeping financial guidance simple. We're in the Millennium Sound studio tonight, but joining us, Coach Wayne Bradford, Nick Artman. Gentlemen, good to see you all again. You ready for some football?
Absolutely.
Every time. Is that even a question? Does somebody say no to that question?
I don't know. Someone out there somewhere is watching us just for like parody's sake and probably isn't that interested. That or maybe it's their fantasy football punishment. They're going to listen to an episode of our podcast. I don't know. I hope that's
I am totally implementing that in my fantasy football league. That's a great one.
An episode, no. Well, it needs to be a 12-hour loop, just like how they make people go sit at Waffle House or a random restaurant or bar for an entire day.
So by the way,
12-hour loop.
By the way, on that topic, is it getting a little outdated, the whole sit in a restaurant for 24 hours and every beer you drink is an hour off challenge? I feel like that's all the loser punishment is nowadays. Go to a Waffle House, go to a Buffalo Wild Wings for 24 hours, you have a drink, it's an hour off. I just feel like that's getting outdated.
I think it's overplayed, yeah.
It's because we see it so much more with social media and everybody's like live tweeting their experience now to give the entire world an update on their fantasy football punishment. So you see a lot more of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand. Like, the way I see it is, if you get to be locked in someplace for 24 hours, as long as it's got a TV, I'm fine.
Yeah. That's because we have small kids.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, too, as long as you've got your phone, you can get some emails done, get some work figured out in those 24 hours. You've got all kinds of time yourself. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. That's another story for another day, though. Maybe we should all think of a fantasy football punishment, because I think we got to do a league next year, too, by the way. Put that on the radar for next year. All right, talking football. Big weekend coming up on Saturday. Big weekend coming up on Sunday for NFL football. We've got one local team left. If you're Wayne Bradford, you've got two local teams left, and they play each other. And that's where we start tonight. It's Bills, it's Ravens. It's the second rendition of the year between these two teams. If you remember the last time they played, Wayne does very well. It wasn't very competitive. It was week 5, I believe, on Sunday Night Football. Lamar Jackson just came out and trounced Buffalo. Coming into this game, it's intriguing because you've got the Ravens as a 1-point favorite on the road. So, Wayne, with it being your team and with it being the local squad, I will start with you. Are you surprised at the fact that Baltimore is favored in this game? And if so, your initial thoughts as to round 2 between Buffalo and Baltimore?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's a pick'em game. I just think that people see how dominant Baltimore has been down the stretch, right? They just haven't been winning. They've been dominant. And, with that run game, with that rushing defense, I'm not surprised. With the weather, it's not going to be an evening where you're chucking the ball around 30 or 40 times. You're going to win the game Sunday night with defense, running the football, solid special teams, and protecting the football when you have it and taking it away when you don't. So I'm not surprised at all, that it's a pick 'em -1 game.
Nick, you're nodding your head. Are in agreement or the other way?
No, as usual, Coach and I are in lockstep. I mean, it's going to be an all-ground game. You have obviously the Ravens are the top rushing offense in the league. They topped 200 yards rushing 8 times this season, including 271 against Buffalo in that game that you were talking about. So they set an NFL record by averaging 5.76 yards per rush attempt. This is a game that I think this offense is built for. Now, Lamar is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the cold. He just looks like he's freezing 100% of the time. So 22 degrees at kickoff is going to make this a definitely ground and pound game. And then James Cook on the other side of the ball. James Cook, tying Derrick Henry for the lead in rushing touchdowns. I think you're going to see a ton of – this is going to be like an old school, 60s, 70s ice bowl ground game, defense game.
Jonathan's pulling up the weather as we talk about it now, and there's potential for snow in the forecast as well. And by the way, it was week 4 when they met, not week number 5. Baltimore won the game 35-10. I'm intrigued, though, because I looked at week 4, and I remember looking back at the game and being shocked at the fact we picked the game. I think I picked Buffalo that week, and I was surprised at the fact that Baltimore came out, ran the ball for like they did. Derrick Henry in that game had a $199 on the ground. And I look at the Bills now, and for me, it's so fascinating because of how they have morphed their defense as the season has gone on. Wayne's brought up a good point throughout our episodes. The Bills' run defense has struggled as the season has progressed, and it seemed like it was going to be the same when they lost to the Rams and going into the Detroit game, and it seemed like they just weren't ready for the moment with Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa. But then you look up, and you look at last week, and you look at this Buffalo team that seemingly had a weakness, and they just trounced Denver in terms of what the Broncos were able to do on the ground. They became a one-dimensional team. Bo Nix was the top rusher. So now, Jay Will, I look at this Bills defense, and I think to myself, okay, it's cold weather. It's the second time you face the Ravens. This run defense, I think, since they have last played, is much improved.
It's much improved, but a part of that is that you don't have to face a running back like Derrick Henry and a quarterback like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, fair.
Both guys that can take over a game with their legs, take over a game running the football. So yes, their defense is much improved, and their run defense has been impressive in recent weeks. And I mean, you'll even hear them tell you that they are a different team defensively than they were in that first matchup. So it's going to be a true battle of wills, because you're playing against a team that's running the football better than pretty much anyone in the Baltimore Ravens, and they have a lot of dangerous ways to get into their rushing attack, whether it's direct snaps to Derrick Henry, whether it's that zone read with Lamar Jackson. There's so many different ways that they can attack you with just those two guys. Oh, wait, then they throw Justice Hill in there, and now you have a receiving threat out of the backfield, and now you have to account for him. It's just a lot of different ways that Baltimore can get downhill and attack you. So it's going to really test them and see, okay, how good has this Bills run defense actually gotten?
The narrative out there, guys, is going to be coming into this game, okay, who should be the MVP? I know playoffs doesn't count for voting for the MVP, but okay, whoever wins this game should probably win the most valuable player and things of that nature. But you brought up a good point, Coach, because I feel like in the cold, in an environment like this, you want your quarterback play relying on your quarterback play to be at a minimum. But then I turn around and I look at and I ask, and maybe you can answer this, Coach, and Nick too, because this is where I question how much in this game do you ask your quarterback to be your best running back? I know Derrick Henry is built for this kind of weather, and James Cook, as we mentioned, is tied for him in the top of the league for rushing touchdowns. But you almost get the feeling like, at least from my seat, that these two quarterbacks are going to want to put the ball in their own hands to win the game. Is there as much of a quarterback run component in this game as maybe I'm expecting that there's going to be?
I think there definitely is, and it's two different ways. So Buffalo's going to rely on Allen on third and short, fourth down, those particular downs, right? To grind it out, important downs. Where Baltimore, Lamar's going to run the ball on 1st and 10. Lamar's going to scramble, those particular things. So, yeah, I think you'll see a lot of both, but in different down and distance situations.
Yeah, and I think for me, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed about Lamar this year, and I haven't been the biggest Lamar fan, biased, I'm a Steelers fan, but This has been the first year that I've watched Lamar, and I thought he has really upped his passing game, which then I think opens up his run game because he's no longer running for his life. He's running strategically. Of the many things that I saw in that Steeler game last week, they're running that run-pass option beautifully. He's watching that line, and if there's an open hole, he's putting it in the belly of Derrick Henry. And if not, he's going to go ahead and take off and run. But he's not running because he's shifty or the pocket collapses. He's using it strategically.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead. Keep going.
No. And I was going to switch it over to Josh Allen on their side of the ball. I think Allen is a little more running out of necessity this year just because of the lack of receiving options and the way that offense is built versus Baltimore. Go ahead, Jay.
For me, to your point with Lamar, yes, he's running more strategically, and I think that's something that was maybe done on purpose and maybe a little tweak to his play style just a tad bit.
Yeah.
He's scrambling to pass now a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Like he's scrambling with his eyes downfield. He's running around in the pocket, but normally like when you see Lamar get outside the tackles and roll out and he's moving towards the line of scrimmage, the ball is tucked, he's about to take off and make somebody miss and do a crazy move and maybe run for about 20 to 30 yards. Right. Now he's scrambling with his eyes downfield to make the pass. There's that, and then there's less wear and tear on his body because of it.
Yeah.
He is fresher and healthier coming into this matchup than he's been in his entire career coming into a playoff matchup because not necessarily he's running less, but he's picking his spots better. He's not necessarily getting banged up. He's not getting hit quite as much. And he just seems like he's at a better spot health-wise than he typically is to this point in the season. To your point with Josh Allen, it's more runs out of necessity, but it's difference in types of play calls. When Josh Allen runs the ball, it is straight quarterback run, no option, anything. They're pulling guards. It's like counter quarterback runs. It's QB blast, like QB power. They're pulling guards. There's no other option. It's just Josh Allen, put your head down, get between the tackles, go pick up this first down. With Lamar, it always seems like there's an option where he can hand it off, he can throw it, he can pull it, and they're moving him a lot more east-west than north-south because they're using his elusiveness and his agility. So it's two different run styles for me that makes this an interesting matchup.
Yep.
In a way, I don't believe necessarily what I say with the Josh Allen needing to run the football, but I think the reason that he's going to be such a big component in this game with his legs and why, to me, Joe Brady's going to have to call design QB runs when you've seen this firsthand. The unit we haven't talked about yet in this preview that, to me, is the most underrated is Baltimore's defense. They have, in the last 8 weeks of the season, been the best defense in football. We saw that against Pittsburgh. And specifically for me is the back seven. The linebackers in the secondary, for me, when you see what they've done with Kyle Hamilton and moving him back to a true safety, they've started to trust their defensive line. They trust their linebackers with Smith and Harrison and Van Noy in the fact that they can tackle in space. For me, what was the biggest thing in the Ravens' win against the Steelers is that those linebackers didn't need help to make tackles in the second level. You saw Pittsburgh couldn't run the ball past the front seven. They weren't able to get outside the hash marks, and that's because of the athleticism of Baltimore's linebackers. So if you're Josh Allen and you're Joe Brady and you're coming together with a game plan, you almost have to have a situation where you have a package of plays where it is expected that Josh is rolling outside the pocket, because I just don't know if you can have Josh on design quarterback runs be successful. I think Baltimore sniffs it out. And for me, if you're Allen, this would be the game out of any game that you've played this season where I'm okay with the old Josh Allen. I am okay with the scramble around, run if you want to, not if you have to, and take some shots down the field, only because I think Baltimore's defense is going to expect that design QB run. I think you have to do it out of your intuition, not out of your play sheet, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, interesting take. The first game, they never had a chance to get in any rhythm, right? Because they were down so much. And then the play of the game to me was the trick play where Allen got crushed and the turnover and, just when they had a drive going and they were getting some momentum. I don't think Baltimore has any weaknesses, defensively. You talk about the back seven, but up front you got Matabike, you got Michael Pierce, you got Odafe Owe, you got Van Noy, run them out there, right? Roquan Smith, Marlon Humphrey. Then you bring in Wiggins. And you got Kyle Hamilton. One weakness, Brandon Stevens. What's the matchup going to be there? Is it going to be Keon Coleman on Brandon Stevens? Is it going to be, Stevens somewhere else? There's one weak link, probably. Can you expose him? But they're only giving up 80 yards rushing a game. So I think they're probably licking their chops with the weather conditions and so forth. So I think you'll see a lot more tight coverage, a lot more man as well with the conditions. So it's going to be an interesting concept. Baltimore's been heavy cover 3, a lot of cover 2. I think you might see some more pressure and some more man coverage this weekend.
So does the weather?
I was leaving room for the other defensive guy to jump in.
So I'll kick it back to the defensive mind. Does the weather really affect your game plan as far as play calling defensively? Obviously, it affects it offensively with being able to throw the ball and certain things when you get into cold, windy, potentially snowy conditions. But defensively, do you think the weather really factors into your game plan and your aggressiveness that much?
I think the wind does, Jonathan. You know what I mean? I don't think so much the cold, right? But the wind and how that impacts, the football there. Obviously, if it was wet, right, the ability to protect the football, things might be different. And a lot of times, in wet and cold, and we saw in the Buffalo-San Francisco game that, the frozen field really helped the offense and helped, the running backs with both teams were running at will. So that'll be an interesting concept as well. But Baltimore's so big up inside, like Pierce and Madubuike. They're not 260, 70-pound guys. They're 330 and 350. So they're not going to allow anything, between the tackles. So it's going to be very difficult to Josh to run quarterback power and quarterback ISO and quarterback counter, right? They might have more success, getting Cook on the perimeter with outside zone. So that'll be an interesting, battle as well.
What a game it's going to be on Sunday. There's a reason that they put this in the 6:30 time slot. There's a reason that it is the final game of divisional weekend. There are a lot of people that are saying whoever wins this game is going to the Super Bowl. Not sure I would go that far, but there's that being put out there. Let's pick it. Nick Artman, you get the honors first. Who wins, Ravens or Bills, on Sunday, round 2, divisional round?
So a game between the 2024 co-MVPs, I got to lean Lamar. I just think the Baltimore offense and that run game is just going to be too much for that Bills defense to stop. Jonathan, you were talking about the Bills rush defense, and in that Week 4 game, Buffalo's defense was missing 3 starters: Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, Teron Johnson. Taylor Rapp only played like 15, 16 snaps before getting out with a concussion. All 4 are back. That rush defense has been looking good for Buffalo. But, man, that offense of Baltimore just looked like they were clicking against a downtrot Steelers team, and I think they keep that rolling this week. They're riding the hot streak. They're fired up. Henry and Lamar are leading this team, and I think with or without Zay Flowers, I think they're going to be – I think they leave Buffalo with a win.
One team that's equipped to play in cold weather, that's for sure, is Baltimore. All right, Wayne, you got the honors.
Yeah, the last 5 times Baltimore's 3-2, and they have owned the time of possession, averaging 31 minutes a game. They have one game where they had 35 minutes and 38 minutes. So there's the formula, right? Keep the ball away from the offense. And the most that Buffalo has scored against Baltimore in those 5 games is 23 points. So, I'm with Nick. I think it's a close game. Maybe it's a Justin Tucker winning field goal. I'm just going to say it's the Ravens defense, not the Ravens offense, that wins the game for them.
2 for the Ravens for Nick and Wayne. Now we come in studio with Jonathan Williams in a game that is, we all think, going to be tight. I assume you think it's going to be close as well. Who wins, Ravens, Bills?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I know Coach has been begging for the resurgence of Justin Tucker in the last couple of weeks, man. He's been waiting for it.
It's like fantasy football still going on.
Yeah, the city of Baltimore has been wanting that back.
Man, but no, I definitely think it's going to be a close matchup. And, you got 2 of the pretty much top teams in the league. These 2 teams are firmly planted both in the top 5 of football teams in the NFL. I just think Baltimore does too much offensively. I just feel like they have too much firepower. Like I said, they're able to get downhill and get at you in the run game in so many different ways. And there's so many things that you have to scheme for and plan to stop. Oh, and then you can be in perfect position to stop Lamar Jackson, and he'll still make you miss and break out for 20 or 30 yards. Like there are clips this season of opposing coaches when Lamar Jackson has the football, and it's just like, what do you do? We called the perfect play, we called the perfect coverage, and Lamar goes out there and just does what he does and makes something happen. While Josh Allen has the ability to do something similar, I don't think that it compares or measures up to Lamar. I hear you in saying that the defense is going to be the difference in this game, but me personally, I just feel like it's going to come down to Lamar being Lamar and making a crazy play.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen Lamar make so many plays in the last 5 weeks of the season alone. I mean, you can make the argument that if Lamar Jackson played from the Pittsburgh game in the Steel City on and hadn't played the beginning part of the season, that he still probably should be MVP. And I think if recency bias wasn't a thing, Lamar probably would be a front runner for the MVP. And so I agree with everything you guys were saying. And I know a lot of people on this show think I'm a Bills homer, which I don't understand that at all. In fact, I really could care less about Buffalo. I mean, I covered them for 3 years, but like I watch them. You know, I've been hoping that at some point they can get to a Super Bowl. And so, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, so you picked the Bills a lot. You know, okay, well, I call it like I see it. I'm not a betting man. I've never been a betting man, and I'm probably never going to be a betting man. But I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you're a betting man, I don't understand why you're not hammering Buffalo. I don't understand this line at all. And I get what you guys are saying. I know Lamar and his two-way threat. I know Derrick Henry was the force on the ground the last time these two teams played. But I look at Buffalo's defensive line and the way that they've played the last few weeks, specifically last week against Denver, who for all intents and purposes, went to the playoffs because their offensive line was able to protect a rookie quarterback. Because if that doesn't happen, you're not getting to the postseason with Bo Nix. And
now they played a Chiefs team that played their third and fourth string guys.
I'm just you gotta have a solid offensive line to get to the postseason. And I look at AJ Epinesa against Roger Rosengarten, and I think, okay, I know Epinesa hasn't had the greatest season, but I think that's a mismatch. I think that's the one mismatch in the game. I think the Buffalo's going to have to score. I think this game's going to be more high scoring than what it is. But I'm the only one who takes the Bills here. All right, thanks. Sign me up. I think Josh Allen's going to make enough plays to win this football game. And me personally, I think Buffalo is going to do what they didn't do against Kansas City last year, and that's use James Cook in the passing game. If there's one thing the Bills can do to stretch out this Ravens front seven, it's put James Cook, Ty Johnson in wheel routes, in screen routes, things like that. So you force Baltimore's defense to get outside the box. That's when the quarterback draws up the middle can start working. I think they're going to get to that. I think it's going to happen. And when you look at the way that week 4 went, I also just think it is so hard, A, to beat a team twice, and B, to beat a team who you humiliated earlier in the season. And, oh, by the way, you're playing in Orchard Park. I actually think the Bills are going to win this game by 2 scores. That to me is how confident I am in Josh Allen and this team this year and the way they've been able to make a run in this postseason and how they played last week. And I just think until Lamar Jackson puts together a good playoff run, I got to see it. And I've seen Josh get to an AFC championship game. I think Buffalo's kryptonite's coming next week when they face Kansas City. Spoiler alert for my prediction of that game. But I'll be the only one to take the Bills, sure. And I'm
Homer.
You Homer. Yeah, I'm such a Homer. I can't stand covering teams. Gosh, it makes me so frustrated. All right, so there you go. 3 Ravens, 1 Bills for Sunday. We'll see who's all right about that. And in a second, we're going to predict the other games coming up on Divisional Weekend. But before that, we got to thank our sponsor, of course, Rebich Investments, for being a part of our show. www.rebichinvestments is the website to find. 814-734-3433 is the number to dial. Rebich Investments, keeping financial guidance simple for the better part of a few decades in the local community. All right, let's pick some other games here. We'll start with Kansas City and Houston, the first game of divisional round weekend. I'm taking the Chiefs. I kind of gave that prediction away here. And, Houston just seems to be that one team that they can only go as far as their home confines will take them. I don't think they're going to win in freezing cold in Arrowhead. Jonathan, who do you have taking on, based on your prediction, the Ravens, Chiefs or the Texans?
I've got the Chiefs. Houston's been a good year to this point, and they've battled through some adversity for sure in the back half of their season, and they had a good wild card win. But I just don't think the Texans really have the offensive firepower to keep up with Kansas City and the Chiefs. And then also, like you said, they typically don't perform well outside of the confines of is it the NRG Stadium still?
Yeah,
they don't perform outside of the confines of Houston very well, especially not in playoff matchups. I got the Chiefs here.
All right, Wayne, over to you.
Oh, man, the Chiefs don't think they have to play this weekend. They're thinking about the Bills and the Ravens. So Houston pulls off a major upset. All right? That Texans defense gets after the quarterback. You know, what they did to Justin Herbert, he had 3 interceptions all year. He throws 4. You know, so they get a great shot of confidence. They got a great young head coach. They got 2 great edge rushers. They got the 2 leading interceptors in the back end. All right, they got 2 Scruggs from Cathedral Prep High School in the offensive line. Houston shocks the world and beats Kansas City.
Okay, so this is my show. I'm allowed to make this comment. So everyone gets on me for being a homer and picking, Buffalo and Pittsburgh and whatnot. Can we just recognize the fact that every week for the last month and a half, Wayne has made a ridiculous and outlandish upset prediction that has never come to pass?
The Commanders won last week, didn't they?
They did win, yeah.
Notre Dame beat Penn State, didn't they? I mean, I'm trying to figure out what you're talking about here.
Well, if we're talking Penn State and upsets, I'm not sure that SMU and Boise State
Buffalo beat the Lions that week. I don't
know. Oh,
if
that's right. You picked Boise State in that game. I forgot. Yeah, I you know what? For your sake,
last night, someone was going to make a crazy one.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He wants the easiest path for his Ravens to get to New Orleans. That's about the only reason.
Houston grew up last week, right? Did anybody think they were going to win that football game?
No, I agree.
So and to win it the way they did, it was gritty. It wasn't. So it was a gritty playoff type win with defense, which shocked me. So I think Kansas City's, getting long in the tooth and old and tired, and I think Kansas City will look past them. That's my take.
Okay, all right.
I'm not as. While it sounds like a crazy take, I'm not as far away from you, Wayne, in the fact that Kansas City has kind of sleepwalked, in my opinion, this season to begin with. And I remember saying earlier in the year that they didn't quite impress me. Yeah, they had the great record. They were undefeated at the time, but it didn't quite impress me. It just seemed like they were kind of just getting by. So I can see your angle there. It just, for me, for Houston to win that game last week, it took Justin Herbert having the worst game he's had all season. Quite literally, like multiple interception game, unable to move the ball on offense. I just don't believe they're going to be able to force a Chiefs team with as many weapons as they have, and with a guy like Pat Mahomes at quarterback. I don't think they're going to be able to force them into that many mistakes this week.
And the other problem, too, Nick, as we get to your pick, is that if Houston scores 10 in the first half, they're going to be down by 11 points. I mean, you can't have that kind of a 30-minute start like you did and beat Kansas City in the cold. Who do you have winning this game, Nick? Chiefs, Texans?
Well, let me start with this. If you're gonna pick on Coach Bradford about his picks, we got to find a new way to pick him down, because if you remember from a couple weeks ago, we did the Hot Take podcast, or go back and check that one out if you missed that one. And Coach had this outlandish hot take of Dallas firing Mike McCarthy and hiring Dion and trading away Dak and Micah and all these other picks for Shador. Well, literally today, I saw a report that Jerry Jones would easily do one of the following. This is per multiple NFL executives and scouts. He'll either trade up in the draft and have Shador sit behind Dak for a period of time, or trade Dak and take the financial hit. Cleveland, New York, and Tennessee all have interest in Dak because of the subpar QB class this year. Listen, if you're going to take down Coach's pick, don't take it because of his outlandish picks.
Who's compensating Wayne in the Cowboys war room? I need to know right now. Who's your staffer that you know in Dallas?
Yeah, I don't know anybody there, but remember, it was a 1918 call a few weeks ago too, and it almost ended up being
you're right. You're right about that.
The game in the studio.
So maybe
yes.
So maybe in cold and snow games we shouldn't pick against Wayne.
So let me bring it back around.
Full circle, yeah.
That's not a reason to criticize Coach. And I'm also, man, I'm with you on the defense. When you look at Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., I mean, you're talking about two, top 10 edge rushers. Then you got Stingley and Lassiter on the outside. That defense made Herbert look bad. And I'm a big Justin Herbert fan. My fear in this game is not Houston's defense, but it's like what Jonathan said. I don't know that that Stroud can keep up with Mahomes and Kelsey and the like. I'm really tempted to take Houston in this one as well.
No,
but at this point, no, I really am. Get out of here. I totally am. But I cannot bet against Mahomes until I see it.
Come on, Nick, you took Denver last week.
And yeah, look how that worked out for me.
All right. So Wayne's got the Texans. Wayne and I are the ones out on the limb for the AFC game. I'm the only one with Buffalo. Wayne's the only one with Houston. So we'll see. Those are the AFC games. Let's go to the NFC.
Listen, that Denver pick, by the way, looked really good for the first 10 minutes of the
game.
Yeah,
I almost texted you like 3 minutes in being like, man, Nick's a genius. And then
it was all downhill from there.
Game time happened. Not how you start, it's how you finish. All right, NFC, Commanders, Lions. We're going to start with you, Wayne, on this one. Sneaky, interesting game. It's the largest line of the week. Detroit's favored by 9.5 on Saturday evening. Who do you got in this one?
Yeah, congratulations to the Commanders on last year. They've really been the cardiac kids of this year. I just think too much offense for Detroit, right? This will be a high-scoring game, indoors, etc. The Lions getting some rest. I think it's more competitive than people think. The Washington's been in every game, even the ones that they've lost. There's some magic there. I think the magic probably ran out with the doink this past weekend. But I just think Detroit with the rest and all the offensive weapons and getting Montgomery back, I just think there's too much offense there.
Yeah, and that's the point we've made all year about the Lions. They haven't been healthy. I mean, this team fully healthy. I mean, goodness gracious. I think you're surefire favorites to win the Super Bowl. Nick Artman, Commanders, Lions, who wins?
Listen, the over-under for this game is set at 55.5.
Crazy.
I'm not a betting man either, but I'd slam the over because I don't think either team is going to start a kicker or is going to dress a kicker or a punter in this game. You got Dan Campbell and then you have Dan Quinn. Neither one of them, it's 4th and 10 on their own 20, and they're going for it. So I think it's going to be an offensive showdown. So when I look at both offenses, I love the Commanders' offense. I love the future of Jaden Daniels. I think getting David Montgomery back is huge. You got Sonic and Knuckles just kind of, spelling each other in and out. Plus you got Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra. I'm with Coach. It's just too much offensive firepower coming from Detroit.
Yeah, and like we said, getting healthy, my goodness. They've got weapons for days. And also, too, by the way, we're going to talk in a little bit about Mike Tomlin. Should he stay or go? And I know Ben Johnson's been, Pittsburgh or this team. If you're Ben Johnson, you're probably making $5 million a year as an OC. Why would you leave for the wrong job? I mean, you're sitting pretty, and you've got a team that's Super Bowl caliber heading into the divisional round. All right, to my right, Jonathan Williams. We've got 2 straight Lions picks. Who do you have in this one?
Yeah, you can go on ahead and make it 3. Like Coach said, the Commanders have had a great season, but I just feel like the magic has kind of run out for them. And the Lions just have a lot of talent at the skill positions. Getting David Montgomery back is huge with that 1-2 punch with him and Jahmyr Gibbs. They just have entirely too much offense. The Commanders are going to keep it close. I do think it's going to be a video game-esque type of game. This is when you are playing against one of your friends in Madden 25 and nobody punts and the special teams option just doesn't get touched at all in the game. There's going to be some times where Dan Campbell does some head scratching things as all year, but there are going to be some times where it's done from the opposite side from the Commanders as well. So it's going to be one of those games. I just think when you compare rosters, there's one team that is just more loaded than the other, and that's the Lions in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded, no question about it. And man, it's been you talk about magical season for the Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels is the real deal. Yeah. I think he has, for your team, Wayne, I think he has a lot of Lamar in him, but I think he's even a little more poised in the pocket, which would scare me. He's
the MVP, right? They won 13 games. So who's the most valuable player? The Commanders winning 13 games or, Lamar winning 12, right? Yeah. With that roster, like you speak to. A rookie winning 13 games, you could make an argument that he's the MVP.
Yeah.
Without Jaden Daniels, how many are they? A 6-win team? So has he doubled their win total? Possibly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you're set for a while, too. Dan Quinn's the guy. They've got the young talent with Terry McLaurin on the outside, and I think this team's going to be there. You know what? I said I thought the Commanders would lead at half, and I was going to pick the Lions to win the game. But, I've criticized Wayne for his upset pick with the Texans, so I feel like I should be on the same train. Give me the Commanders, baby.
Oh, my God.
Give me Washington to upset the Lions. I've got a gut feeling. And it's not necessarily what I think Washington's going to do. I think they stay in the game because Jaden Daniels has kept his team in games. Even in their losses, they have been relatively close.
Yeah.
I think the problem with the Lions, it's a lot like the problems with the Bills, is that Dan Campbell runs into this mental blockade where he feels like he has to be this roll the dice, go for a guy all the time. And I think at some point, the rubber's going to meet the road and the law of averages will come to pass. And there's going to be a fourth down that Detroit doesn't convert. And I think that's what's going to spell the difference in this game. And I think, too, Washington's a lot better of a team than what people realize. And I don't think they feel like a Cinderella story. I mean, Jaden Daniels is a rookie, but it doesn't feel like a team that just snuck their way into the playoffs or that, is riding the coattails of one guy. So I think if there's going to be a team to beat the Lions, it's the Commanders because they've got A, momentum, B, a quarterback who's wise beyond his years, and C, a team that doesn't know what they don't know. So you know what? Give me the Commanders. Why not? So that way Wayne and I can both be in the same boat, and I'll get off my soapbox here. All right, one more game. Eagles taking on the Rams after Los Angeles dispatched Minnesota. Jonathan, we're going to start with you here between the Eagles and Rams.
This one is intriguing for me. This one's interesting for me. I watched that entire Rams-Vikings game, and you got the sense that the Rams came into that game a little overlooked. They felt like around the league it was kind of a consensus that Minnesota had been rolling, 14 wins, Justin Jefferson, Sam Darnold, and even Dan Campbell in the post-game coach handshake saying, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. You just got the sense that the Rams felt slighted by that, and they came out and they played with their hair on fire. And absolutely smothered the Vikings offensively. They couldn't get anything going for that entire game, and that was in large part to the Rams defense and how well that they played. And then on the other side, you look at Philly, whose quarterback in Jalen Hurts has to come out every week and answer to why he did throw the ball this much or why he didn't throw the ball this much and why his numbers look good and why his numbers don't look good. And he's like, I'm just worried about winning. And it's great to have a guy like that who's willing to do whatever it takes to win the game, whether it affects his numbers or not. But it's just a lot swirling around Philly, and it seems like there has been for the entire season. They've been winning in spite of noise. Got A.J. Brown reading a book on the sideline. I know it's his thing, and he's what he does to stay focused, but it's like, and then the whole Saquon, he has a chance to break the record against the Giants, and they sit him, but he wanted to play, but they sit him. It's just a lot always going on with Philly. Maybe this is my outlandish upset take. I just think LA with a lot to play for, obviously with their situation going on back home. LA comes in on the road in the snow and pulls off a massive upset and gets the Eagles out of there.
We're all going upsets here today. Everyone's got a iron in the fire right now, except for who? Except for Nick Artman. He's got that chance right now. You've got one more opportunity, Nick. Rams and Eagles. Who wins?
Listen, after my predictions this year, I'm out of irons. That's
the only thing you have is chalk.
Exactly. So, this game for me, I love Sean McVay. I think McVay is probably my favorite coach in the NFL. The guy is just a wizard at scheming. He'll completely change his offensive and defensive game plan at halftime and look like two different teams. This is a team everybody had out because, of injuries early on, and then that defense is young, but they haven't had very many draft picks over the last few years, but they've hit on every single one. The problem for me is I was really maybe beating up Sirianni a little bit about sitting everybody in the last game, especially when Saquon was 106 yards from the record or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think that was a really smart move by Sirianni. They played an incredible game last week against a really good Green Bay team. Saquon looked like he took that week off and found the fountain of youth. He runs 119 yards against the Packers last week. When the Eagles took down the Rams 37-20 earlier this year, Barkley set a franchise record with 255 rushing yards, including touchdown runs of 70 and 72. A.J. Brown was 109 on a touchdown. I think they are, like Jonathan said, they have it. They're firing on all cylinders. The whole team is there. And I think Barkley is the one stoking the fire and pushing everybody to the Super Bowl. So I'm sticking with my revamped Super Bowl pick, and I'm going with Philly in this one.
Good description from Nick. That brings us to Coach Wayne Bradford.
Nobody's talking about potentially the best postseason player, Matt Stafford. I mean, the guy's a wizard in the postseason.
It's true.
So I'm with you with McVay, but Matt Stafford, man, when I see him throwing it over here and over there, I mean, he's like Allen Iverson, since we're talking Philly, as a quarterback. And then, Nick, to your point, the Rams are playing with two rookies, Verse and the other guy, Fisk, and those guys. Early on, same kind of thing with Baltimore. They didn't know what they had in that roster and so forth. The 9 sacks, man, is, against a 14-win team. Outside of Baltimore, I think LA's the next hottest team, right? And they've been there and they've won a Super Bowl, and they know what it takes. So I'm taking the Rams with Jonathan. I'm looking for a big upset here. So I've got one in the AFC and one in the NFC, and I'm looking for a great game. But I think the Rams are going to pull another shocker this weekend.
Man, I was convinced I'd be left on an island with this pick, but I guess I'm in the majority. I'm going to go Rams 2 in this game. To me, it's
get off my island.
I was going to say Nick's got apparently the upset pick is apparently the home favorite by 9.5 points or something like that. That's the Lions game, whatever. I look at this game, to me, it's simple. I look at who's got
6.
the better quarterback, and I trust Matt Stafford, to Wayne's point, more than I do Jalen Hurts. Okay, who's got the better coach? Well, I don't think that's any question. It's a coaching mismatch. Sean McVay is head and shoulders above what Nick Sirianni has ever been. And the last thing I look at is, and you mentioned, Nick, the 37-20 game earlier in the season, I think the Rams' defense, maybe with Baltimore's defense, has been the most improved unit in the league in the second half of the season. You mentioned Fisk. You mentioned Jared Verse. We don't talk a lot about Kobe Turner and what he's done to cause chaos on the defensive end. I think this defensive line can get to Jalen Hurts. I think they make it difficult for him. And I don't think Saquon Barkley is going to be that much of a factor in this game. And if he isn't, like I'm predicting, you put the ball in Jalen Hurts' hands, you force him to throw the ball 30, 35 times in cold weather. I don't think Philadelphia's winning the game. So, yeah, I'm going to go Rams 2. I think you get Rams Commanders in the NFC Championship game. And what would be it'd be a heck of a story, but
just like everyone predicted at the start of the season,
right. And NFL always throws you curveballs, man. That is for sure. So those are our picks for divisional round weekend. We'll see how right we are, see how wrong we are. But one thing's for sure, we're going to come back on Monday with a heck of a lot to talk about. Before we go, I know I said we were going to talk about Mike Tomlin and should he remain in Pittsburgh. We're running short on time, so we're going to save that for next week's episode and kind of dive into that a lot more with Tomlin and the Steelers and maybe some news breaks before that happens. But before we go, we have to pick the national championship game, even with Penn State out of it. Ohio State, Notre Dame on Monday night. Nick, if you want, you can save your pick since you'll be on Flagship City Sports Talk on Monday. What would you like to save it? Would you like to pick it now? You make the call.
No, we'll go ahead. We'll do it now.
All right, so you can lead us off. Ohio State, Notre Dame in the college football playoff national championship game.
I was not a believer of Notre Dame going into the college football playoffs. I think it's hard to evaluate an independent team sometimes, and I just was not on their bandwagon. I thought Penn State was coming out of that game with a pretty sizable win. I don't know. I watched that team play well on both sides of the ball. That Notre Dame defense, we're talking about Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Ohio State has been the best offense in college football lately, and they're going to be good for the next couple of years. I mean, Will Howard is playing incredible college football, not even college football, professional football. Travion Henderson, I think, has had a really good second half of the year. I just tend to give the lean to that Notre Dame defense. That Notre Dame front seven is just really, really strong. I think it's going to be a close game. I like Notre Dame to win it, though. Give me the Irish.
All right. Maybe 2 upset picks for Nick in this podcast. Wayne Bradford, your pick between Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be much closer. To your point, Nick, my concern is the injuries up front for Notre Dame on the offensive line. I think that's going to be the Achilles heel.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be, again, defensive guy here, the defensive line, and the speed and the intensity, of that unit on Ohio State. I don't think Notre Dame can score enough points. Ohio State is so good, offensively. I just don't think Notre Dame, can keep up. This isn't Penn State who, can't complete a pass to a wide receiver. That's not happening this week. So, I take Ohio State in a close game. And that Jack Sawyer kid's a demon, right?
Yeah.
He ain't losing. He ain't losing again. So you're not planting any flags there. He's planting a flag Monday night for Ohio State. But love that kid and what he's done, and I think it's the Ohio State defense that's a difference.
All right, Jonathan, over to you.
Yeah, I'm rocking with Coach Bradford. I got Ohio State strictly because they can score and they can score at will. Penn State couldn't complete a pass to a wide receiver last week, but I promise you, Jeremiah Smith is going to catch the football for Ohio State, and he's going to catch the football a few times for Ohio State. And you're not going to tackle him when you go to tackle him with the first guy after he catches the ball. They have too much offense. They're going to put up points at will, and for Notre Dame, a shootout isn't really what you want. Also, when you look at Ohio State's defense, their team speed defensively is unreal. They get to the ball like no team that I have watched this season. And I still go back and watch a couple of the highlights from that Tennessee game and just watch them fly around defensively and rally to the ball and get 11 hats to the ball. Their linebackers are sideline to sideline. Like there's just speed everywhere, and it's hard to get anything on that defense. They're going to score points. I just think Notre Dame, you'll keep it close because Marcus Freeman is a heck of a coach and has been coaching his butt off this playoffs, and he's going to have his team ready to play. But I just don't think you have the athletes to match up with Ohio State.
To the three of yours points, even Nick in the Notre Dame pick, is that for the Irish last week against Penn State, I think they actually matched up well. They're a team that likes to play man-to-man coverage. Penn State didn't have a wide receiver that scares you, so you could double Tyler Warren. You could stack the box. And even though Penn State in the first half ran the ball well, Notre Dame made the second half adjustments when necessary. Same with the offense. Riley Leonard likes to run the football, get outside the tackle box. Abdul Carter wasn't 100%. You were able to make that happen. Jeremiah Love had a couple big touches in the second half, and you could throw the football. Problem is when you play Ohio State, even if you double Jeremiah Smith, you've got Emeka Ibuka, Carnell Tate, and by the way, Junkinson Henderson can also get outside in the passing game as well. And so, I look at this game, and it's recent history. You guys remember the Georgia-TCU national championship game 2 years ago?
Yeah, definitely.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen again. It's going to be similar to that. It's going to be similar to that.
It's not going to happen. It's going to be closer.
No, Ohio State's favored by like 8 or 9. If they win this game by any less than 2 or 3 touchdowns, I would be shocked.
Listen, Al Golden, is a great defensive coordinator. Been in the NFL for years and years and years. Al Golden's going to come up with a scheme, not going to contain them, but he's not going to give up 70 points. I can tell you that. That's not going to happen.
I don't think Ohio State scores 65, but I don't see Notre Dame being able to compete for more than a quarter. I mean, losing to Michigan was the best thing that could happen to OSU. It's smartened them up. The only way to me that Notre Dame keeps this close is if they essentially beg Ohio State to run the ball. And for that to happen, you have to put 3 or 4 in the box, spread out the defense, 2 or 3 high safeties, and make it look like the middle is open. You put Ohio State into a phone booth, then it becomes close. If you can't do that, then the Buckeyes are just going to run over them, and I think it's a 2 or 3 touchdown game. But again, the only solace for Notre Dame is, you mentioned now Golden Wayne. I think Marcus Freeman is slowly emerging as a top 5 coach in football. So maybe they are coached well enough to stay in the game. I don't know how it happens. But maybe I'm wrong for Monday, and maybe we'll see. All right, big weekend coming up. Tomorrow, Sunday, Monday with the College Football Playoff National Championship. Going to be a heck of a weekend. We can't wait for it. Guys, any fun plans for the weekend? Wayne, I know you said you weren't sure. Are you going to Buffalo?
Oh, man. I drove to Baltimore, went to the game last week, took the whole family. So it was a long weekend. Thought about had some connections with tickets up in Buffalo earlier in the week. Would have been too much for my son to drive up 6 hours, take off Monday. And, you said 22 degrees. I say it's going to be 8 degrees at kickoff and -7 with the wind chill. So my wife's like, So I'm sitting on my couch and yelling at the TV for 3 hours on Sunday night. That's my plan.
We're going tubing, buddy. Head out to Mount Pleasant. We're taking the kids tubing. I'm going to be flying down that hill, a guy my size.
Nice. Make sure you get that Chevy Chase, put that PAM on the bottom of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get that thing going.
Man, you talk about creating real speed. People like Nick and I, we just all we got to do is just sit.
You wish you had my center of gravity, Isaac.
I took my son sledding last week, and you would be amazed how quick we went. I'm thinking to myself, good Lord, is it really that bad? But all I will say is that he only wanted to go down once. He didn't want to go down again. So if that tells you anything.
It takes you longer to get the clothes on and get in the car than actual sledding.
100%.
Those are the good old days. You spend hours getting them ready, and they're two runs. Go home.
Yeah, then you face that long walk up the hill, and you're like, oh, man, this ain't a good thing. So enjoy the weekend, folks. Of course, on a serious note, stay warm, stay safe. I know the snow is here. Of course, we've talked about the cold. The cold's here as well. So whatever you're doing, make sure you bundle up, stay warm, make sure the car is gassed up, and all that good stuff. Thanks again for being a part of our episode tonight. We're back Monday, 9 a.m. for Flagship City Sports Talk, part of our network on Talk Erie, X, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So until then, have a wonderful weekend of football. We'll see how truer predictions rang